Hi, guys. Hi. I apologize if you hear a fan. It's warm up here, so there's a fan going down here. That's sort of the ambient noise that you hear behind me. I hope you guys are having a good night. This afternoon, I uploaded a interview, and this was with Katie Nakatsu's brother, Reed Roberts, who is her older brother and her half brother from her mom's side. So their mom was married to, I think, Robert or Reed's dad. Then they split. Then she married Corey, and then Corey had Katie and her sister. And then after, I think he said 15 years, they split. And then Corey went on and married Carrie. So there was a lot of questions that I saw that were like coming in, and a lot of like assumptions about like what this was about or how it came to be or whatever. So I thought like, it was when I put the interview together, I made a commitment to him that I would not edit it. I would not, I didn't edit. I didn't like take anything out of context. I didn't clip things together. It was really important to him that everything was just like all in one stream so that all of his thoughts and his feelings could just go out there. And he wanted to just be able to share his feelings and to just help people better understand his sister. So there was some questions about how Reed, I was like waiting for some tea to drop, or I was pushing him on different aspects of the IBLP, or waiting for him to say something sort of salacious. And that's actually not the case. So how the whole thing came to be was I got a message from him yesterday, and it was after I had shared a photo that he had shared on his Instagram. And I made a joke on my Instagram, like somewhere Jim Bob is crying a puddle of tears. Something about that, like just being silly, because Katie's parents, it's like, it's just a stark contrast to the Duggars and their world. This is like the first time we're seeing I think a sibling of a spouse that is openly LGBTQ plus. And it was, it was awesome. It was an awesome sight for me. I was just like, wow, this is so cool. Like, you never see this at the Duggars' weddings. It felt like we were getting a sliver of normal. And he reached out and he was just like, hey, like, you are so funny. And I was like, thanks. Not expecting him to reach out. And then he just said that he was like, I've been getting a lot of messages, and he's like, I didn't realize like the intensity of the Duggars. Like, he said he didn't know the Duggars. He had never like watched the show, and he said that in the interview, but he didn't realize like how much people followed them. So he didn't realize like what happened was like last week he was at the wedding rehearsal, and he like shared a photo, or he shared a quick story on his Instagram, and someone who was on the Reddit page was like, knew who he was, which is amazing. Like, some of these Reddit sleuths, I don't know how they know and can connect these dots. I don't know how they figure out who's related to who, but they had somehow figured out that this was her brother. I didn't even know that. And they had published this video that he took in her, and he posted on his story. And so basically he ends up, it goes into Reddit, and then all these other places share it. And then all these other like people start realizing who he is. And it kind of ends up like in tabloids, because one of his videos, people feel like they see a photo of Steven Wisman with Jana. And so it was like the proof came from Reed's video that he shared on his Instagram. And so once people started figuring out who he was, then people started reaching out to him, like a lot. And he said he started getting all these messages from people about the Duggars and how they couldn't believe that he would go to their I'm sorry, I just saw that comment. So they were like, why would you go to the wedding? Why would you do this? Like, don't you know what the Duggars are about? Because he's proudly out in LGBTQ plus, and a lot of people that are LGBTQ plus don't like the Duggars just because of their long history of being homophobic. So they felt like it was like, how could you do this kind of thing? So he said he was like getting all these messages from people about that. And then he said that there was just all kinds of like things floating around about the relationship all over the place. And he saw my Instagram and he was like, I know that you have a large audience. I can see that you have a lot of Duggar fans. So I thought maybe I could come onto your channel and we could do an interview and I could just set some things straight. And I was like, okay, cool. And his stipulations were is that he wanted to make it very positive. He wanted to make sure that it wasn't like edited or taken pieces out of it. He also was very particular about just like making sure that we stuck to certain things. Now, I knew ahead of time that the Duggars were really nice to him. He told me that yesterday. So I wasn't expecting any details. Like I wasn't expecting anything salacious. He told me yesterday the Duggars were super kind to me. I had a really good experience with them. And I just want to share, from my perspective, what I went through, because I'm getting all these messages from people basically saying that how can I support them or how can I go to this because I'm gay and they're terrible to gay people. And he just wanted people to know that they weren't terrible to him. So I was like, not surprised when he was saying that at all in the interview. I also knew ahead of time what he was going to say about Katie. So I knew that he was going to say about, he was going to sort of downplay the stuff about the arrangement and say that like she was really happy. He was very adamant that she was very happy. He was very adamant that Katie and Jed had a good relationship. So there was a lot that I knew ahead of time. And when I agreed to do it, I said, this is fine. I said, I'm going to have to ask you some questions just to probe you and to try to push you, because I feel like if I don't ask you questions, then people are going to be like, you didn't ask those questions, Katie. And he was like totally on board with all of that. So he knew ahead of time that I was going to be asking him some questions and I was going to sort of push back on things. And then admittedly, yesterday when he reached out, he also told me, I don't know anything about the IBLP. I'm actually only learning about this just now. I don't know a lot about any of this. This is all brand new to me. And he was very adamant that his mom was nothing like that and that it was more Corey, his former stepfather, that was really into all of this. And he had all kinds of things he wanted to say about Corey, but we kind of left that out of the video and we didn't really talk about her dad. But there was like more to the story behind that. So people were like in the comments saying, well, you were wrong about this or you were wrong about that. And I don't feel like there was anything wrong in what I was saying before, because the rumor about the arrangement actually came from a friend of his mom's. So his friend of his mom's reached out and said that this was an arrangement. And then it was confirmed by another person in the IBLP. And then a third person who knows them too said something as well. Now, the arrangements in the Duggar world are not, they're done very differently than I think people assume them to be. Like, it's not like people are like, you're going to get married and that's it. It means that the dads agree to it or the parents agree to the relationship, and relationships don't move forward unless the parents agree. Relationships don't start at all unless there's an agreement by the parents. So the parents within this group have a lot of control, and Jim Bob admittedly has a ton of control when it comes to his kids. She said, I hope you offered to send him info on the IBLP. I did. And I offered to provide him a lot of information. I offered to share as much as I could. And honestly, the one thing I said to him is that I said, the happiness that you're seeing is great, but just know that if things change, he just said without a doubt, like right now, I think she's really happy. And he said, without a doubt, if something changes or if I learn something or if something happens, I will be there for her. That was sort of his thing, is like, no matter what, she's not going to be in this alone. And no matter what, like if I see something, I'm going to be there for her and I'm going to be there as much as I can. So when he has like the kids get involved in a relationship, he has this like 30-page questionnaire. And then he has to have the suitors or the people that are considering dating answer all of these questions. So they go through all of these questions and the kids have talked about it. Like all of them have talked about it. They've done interviews about this question sheet that the kids have to answer when they're about to get into relationships with the Duggars. So Jim Bob goes through with a fine-tooth comb and needs to know literally everything about the people that his kids are getting involved with. So there's choice to a point. Like she could have said no and he could have said no, but he did tell me yesterday that the two of them met and they talked about it and they both wanted the kids to be together. So if you want to not call that an arrangement, that's fine. That to me sounds like two fathers kind of coming together within this group, making a decision, and the kids went and the kids agreed to it. And it sounds like the two of them are a good match for each other and they do really like each other, which isn't uncommon. Like they got to know each other, they got to like each other. I think genuinely they're happy. So yes. And this is another thing that I picked up. I picked up from the interview that three siblings love each other no matter what. Exactly. So the one thing that he was very adamant about was that no matter that I'm different, so he is no longer Christian. He's an atheist, I believe he said. He's proudly out lives in West Hollywood. He has a very different lifestyle from what they experience, and admittedly hasn't been around her every single day because he lives in a completely other state. And he's like 9 years older or 7 years older than her. So he's there for her when she needs him. They had a close relationship growing up, but then he did admit, there was times when I obviously wasn't with her because she was with her dad. And then he also admitted that the dad was with Katie more because he's the one that decided to put Katie into homeschool. Now, he was not aware about anything about Bill Gothard. He did not know about Bill Gothard's history. He wasn't aware with what the ATI was. So a lot of what you were seeing in that interview was honestly me just trying to help him, because he told me, like, I don't know any of this kind of stuff. I don't understand this. And me just trying to kind of fill in some blanks for him. It was definitely not me trying to tell him that she's not happy. It was more like, this is kind of how this group works, and this is how it goes through. And when you go through Corey's blog and you go onto the IBLP's website and their social medias, you can see that Katie was very involved in this. She did Journey to the Heart, which is a 10-day like place where they send kids and they go through forced fasting, and they fast the kids for like 5 days, and the kids are then like in their delirium, I'm told, basically broken down, told everything about this world is bad. All these things are bad. And then they're sort of reprogrammed with all the good things that the IBLP wants them to have in their brains. And then they come back, and the person I talked to several people that went to this, and they all said that it was really traumatic when they look back on it now, especially the fasting and feeling really broken when they came home because they felt like everything about their lives was wrong. And then she also got involved in some other things like biblical submission and really drilling into like the rejection of feminism. So when I was saying that there's this level of brainwashing, it's because that's what the IBLP does with all of their curriculum. And the kids are taught to obey, blindly obey, and not ask questions. And that's like one of the biggest things about the IBLP is that the children are not supposed to question authority because they have like the lowest rung. And so they're always supposed to trust the adults that are in front of them and not ask questions. So, at the end of the day, so she was in the office with him. 64 girls were in an office with him. And this is in 2013. This is around the time that all these other ladies are starting to come forward. 34 women accused Bill Gothard of SA. And, you know, he didn't know how involved Bill was in it. But really, she wasn't thrilled to go into, Corey even wrote that she wasn't thrilled to go into homeschooling. And then the ATI curriculum is really missing a lot of things. Like it doesn't have a lot of science. It's missing, like, it's very into creationism and believing that the earth is 6,000 years and everything is like through the Bible or through the IBLP. It doesn't have like a rounded curriculum. So when I was really, saying more than anything is that I don't have anything against homeschooling at all. He was very against it. Like he was very clear that he didn't like the fact that she was being homeschooled, and he was trying to sort of like convince, support them on that side, let it be known that he didn't support it because he wanted her to be in school. I think homeschooling can be done effectively. I just don't believe it can be done effectively through the ATI. Someone just said they don't fast. I literally talked to someone who went through it twice, and they said they fasted for 4 days, and it's on their website where they talk about fasting. So long story short, the backstory is that long story short, he went to the wedding. And his mom, he admittedly said, was kind of concerned about how this was all going to work out because he's gay and Katie is very conservative. And so is that walking into the Duggars, there was concern if it was going to be a problem. He said like his mom was more concerned about how the two worlds were going to mesh with him being gay and then them being very ultra conservative and homophobic. So he also admitted that he had no idea the extent of the homophobia that was related to the Duggars. And he also was very clear he didn't know anything about the IBLP and the conversion therapy and all of that goes along with the IBLP. So he was coming with this as just being like, I'm the brother. I really love my sister. My sister's a really good girl. And she's very smart and she's very fiery and she will speak her mind. And he just wanted people to know, like, she's not a wallflower. She's not going to let anyone railroad her. And, like she's not going to be railroaded. Now, in regards to whether or not like the Duggars were nice to him, this does not surprise me at all. So like literally, if you know anything about the Duggars, is they have a very high standard of how they act in public, and they are very particular about making sure that publicly they are all super respectful, very, very kind, because they are very aware of their public perception. So they know that if they are not kind and respectful to someone in the public, it's going to get out to the public. And after everything that happened with Josh, Jim Bob has been a lot more like high strung about really dampening down any signs of discontent in the family. And that's when you started seeing that on Counting On, you don't see any more drama because they want to make it seem very vanilla. It's why you see a lot of damage control stuff by him. So I'm not expecting him to be rude. In fact, everyone I've literally talked to that knows them or is around them will tell you that the Duggars in public are super kind, and they're very, very aware of how they come off, and they're also very aware of their appearances. So I wasn't like expecting them to be rude to him, and I wasn't shocked. I was actually like, I assumed they would be nice to him. That's just, Jim Bob really cares about that public perception. And I think, the biggest thing for me out of all of this was that like nobody told him to reach out to me. So the Duggars certainly did not send him to me. Nobody said like, you have to go up and clear anything out. You have to stand by your sister. It was really, really, really him just wanting to say like, I love my sister. My sister's smart. My sister's a really good girl. I'll be there for my sister. And I did tell him, like, I thought the best thing that he said, like, Beth says they do fast. Katie is 100% correct. I don't think he said that they brought no, he didn't say anything about bringing a date. He does watch my content, he said. He's been watching it. Oh, and I know Jim Bob does watch and pay attention to what I say too. And so do a lot of the people that follow him. So, at the end of the day, like no one was expecting, I wasn't expecting anything groundbreaking. I wasn't expecting there to be drama at the wedding. And you have to remember, like, Katie has 3 siblings and there are 19 on that side. And then on top of all of that, they all have, a lot of them are married, and then they have all these grandkids. So for him walking into all of that, he didn't meet everyone. So I asked him after the fact and showed him pictures. He did not meet Jana and he did not meet Jill. So I still don't know if Jill was there. I think she was, but I'm not sure. I was trying to find out if he met Jana because I wanted to see if he saw Jana with Steven. That's correct. And then I asked him if he met Jeremiah's girlfriend, and he said he didn't meet her, but he said that someone told him that she was there and he saw who she was. So I honestly just wanted to know if he met anyone, but he really was pretty clear. Like it was really chaotic. There was so many people there and he just didn't really have a lot of time. But, I didn't see that. Are there downvotes? You guys are talking about downvotes. Oh, yeah, you can give this video some upvotes. I always get downvotes when I'm live, but that, I mean, like a lot of Duggar fans don't like me. Anyways, so he was really just trying to clear this up, and he just wanted to keep things positive, and that was really all he wanted. And he wasn't mad at me. He didn't come to me because he thought I was spreading misinformation. He didn't think that I was doing anything wrong. Honestly, he found me on Instagram. He thought I was posting funny things, saw I had a large Duggar following, liked my sense of humor, and wanted to clear some things up. So I gave him that opportunity, and I really liked him. I honestly loved him. He had such infectious energy, and what made me the happiest was how he was viewing things in a way of, maybe I could be a person that can help bridge some big gaps for them. Maybe they haven't had the right person in their life that is gay that can show them that it's not bad to be gay. Maybe me being around them will help open up their eyes that there are other ways of living. Maybe I can help them see that this isn't wrong to live this way, kind of thing. And, he really just, I loved that. Like after we had the interview and he had to go do someone's hair, that's kind of why it cut off abruptly, is he had a client come in. And so I had a bunch of other questions I wanted to ask him, but he had to go do someone's hair because he's a hairstylist. And I just sent him a message and I said, I just like absolutely love that you have this idea that perhaps that you could be a good influence in the context of being LGBTQ plus, and that you could, you know, perhaps show Jed a whole nother side. He said that Jed was really nice. And that is another thing I've always heard about Jed, is that he's a really nice guy. I've heard that Jed and Jeremiah are very respectful, very friendly, very kind. And they've always, the people I talked to said they've kind of done their own thing because they were twins and they weren't sort of in all of the other chaos because they stuck together. So I think he might have been a little naive about the IBLP? Yes. But at the end of the day, like, he's willing to keep his eyes open, you know, and if things do change, you know, that's what we said after the words. I was like, you know, listen, like, you might think everything's great right now. And if it changes, like, just know that, like, you can be there for her. And he's like, I will be there for her no matter what. So if something happens, like, I will be there for her. If I see something, I will say something. Like, he's not going to be the kind of person that's just going to be quiet. Oh, I didn't even ask about Anna being pregnant. And I asked him if he knew anything about Josh. And he said he had heard a little bit about it, but I didn't specifically ask him, like, what do you think about, you know, coming into a family that has this brother in there? Like, I didn't ask him that at all. And I also don't think it's fair to, like, what Josh did is terrible, but I don't think that defines what the other boys do. So, like, I don't believe that Jed is the kind of guy that was doing the kind of stuff that Josh was doing, right? I don't believe that Jed is a bad kid. Jed's always kind of been like the diplomatic kid. Like, Jed was the kid that was like sticking up for Jason. Do you remember when Jason fell in the orchestra pit? Do you remember that episode where Jason fell like 12 feet down and he was in the orchestra pit and he like broke his jaw and he like cracked his teeth and he had like, he split his lip, and they were like in Atlanta, I think. And they had to go to the ER, and they were doing this event where they were going to be singing. And the next day they go to the ER, they find out all of his stuff, and Jed, they had to, the next day, Jason's in all of this pain. Jason's in all of this pain from falling down. He is on crutches. He sprained his knee or his leg. I can't remember. He had a lot of injuries, and they still made him go to the event the next day. The poor kid had to sit in a wheelchair out in the green room while his parents were up ministering on a stage, when the poor kid should have literally just been laying in bed, having someone take care of him. He shouldn't have been sitting in that wheelchair. And they did this interview with the three boys. I think it was Jeremiah, Jed, and James. And I think it was James or Justin. I can't remember who, but one of them was just like, he was fine. Everything was great. I mean, it was tough. I think it was Justin. He was like, he was tough, but everything was fine. And Jed was like, no, he wasn't. Jason was in so much pain. That was a really bad day for him. He was not okay. And I remember seeing that video and I was like, even Jed back then wasn't going to fall for the lie that Jason was fine. So I don't know. I feel like I don't agree with the politics, but I don't think that Jed's a terrible human being either. So, and the fact that he said she's very opinionated and strong, I think is good. I think these guys should have opinionated and strong women. And see, somebody else remembered that. Thank you. I know I didn't, I'm not the only one that saw that. Poor Jason, his whole face was like swollen. And Michelle is like, he's fine. He's doing tough. He's tough. And I'm like, your kid has a broken jaw. And she's just like, I'm so glad the kids have their camera to videotape this. Like, it was a huge story at the time because They thought that the Duggars had taken things too far. They couldn't even stop what they were doing to take care of their child who was in the ER in trauma. I did. They wrote a book. I actually posted that on my Instagram. So the Volos wrote a book. There was no confirmation about Jana and Steven. The only confirmation I received was that Jeremiah is dating Hannah. I remembered too, Michelle seemed to not care. I forgot about that. I don't think Amy was at the wedding, but I'm not sure. I did not ask her. I didn't ask her. That's what happened. I felt so bad for Michelle should have taken care of him. Yes. If I remember correctly, it was the Bates wedding. No, actually it was not. They were in Atlanta doing a sermon. They were doing like ministry. So they weren't there for a wedding. They were playing like their violins, and then they were doing like a speaking engagement at this church in Atlanta. I only remember this because I literally watched the episode, rewatched it like maybe a month ago. So yeah. And they were touring it and they were getting ready for it and they were like practicing. And because the Duggars don't have a lot of proper supervision, the poor kid fell 15 feet into the orchestra pit, had to be like lifted out, stabilized. It was crazy. Yep, they did. They sang on stage and played their violins, and then they spoke about their ministry. Yes, I'm not happy with broken anything. So anyways, long story short, they also did not film. So TLC was not there. I asked him if Katie and Jed were going to be on Counting On, and he did not know. And I'm trying to think what else. Let me look. So when I asked him whether or not he had a relationship with Corey, he said that he and Corey do not get along at all. He says he hasn't spoken to Corey since his mom and him divorced. He said, but at the same time, I haven't made myself an influence on them. You know, I wish I had. So he wishes he would have been more involved with Katie as a kid, and admittedly does not like her father. He said that he knew nothing about the IBLP. He had picked up some of it from me and then through other people. And then he said that they were Mormon for a couple years. When they were 11, and a coworker invited them to church. And then when I asked them if the Mormonism had anything to do with the divorce, he said a little bit, but not a lot. So Amy can't tell me anything about the Duggars, sadly, because of her NDA. I said in the very beginning of the stream that I think the dads played a part in it. I think the dads scanned it out ahead of time, decided that they would really like this match to work. And that's kind of what Jim does. Like, he scans out prospects, picks them, and then they introduce the kids and see if it'll work. But the kids don't get to really hang out with the opposite sex. So in this world, and so they have to go through parents for these types of things to happen, because there's no such thing as like opposite sex friendships if you're in the IBLP. The stepmother, well, no, I don't know. Oh, Carrie, I didn't ask a thing about Carrie. And he was on the same flight as Jeremy and Ginger. So people were like, oh my gosh, Jeremy's following him on Instagram. And that's because he spoke to them at the wedding. They both live in LA. So the I said Gerger. I was like, I'm going to just call him Gerger. Gerger lives in LA, and so does he. So they were on the same flight home. And he said they were very nice. He has tried to set her up with multiple people, and she rejects every single one of them. But I believe she's now with Steven. I'm trying really hard. So there's this person I have here's what I have for you guys. The hard thing is that there's all these people that have left the IBLP that send me messages, and so many of them are afraid to go on camera because they're afraid of the backlash of their parents or losing contact with their siblings. There's this one person that I am waiting for them to be at a point where they can share, because I feel like they can better explain to you how the marriages work, because they're the ones that basically explained how all the marriages are set up, how it's arranged, how the dads are involved, how the girls are the last ones to know. It's all very convoluted. They also explained a lot to do with like it's the person that went to the Alert Academy. So the person told me that went to the Alert Academy. I think they went to the Alert Academy for like liking some sort of music, like Linkin Park. Like it was found on, and there was a note to a girl. So there was a note to a girl and a Linkin Park song in his radio or something like that. And he said that when you go to Alert Academy, you can't speak for the first 3 weeks. He literally said you cannot talk for the first 3 weeks. I was like, what? And he said talking is a privilege at the Alert Academy. So apparently they can't talk for 3 weeks. So she says, wait, what is HE? HE says, well, I think Reed's intentions were good. I felt his knowledge of his sister was rather superficial, which is not surprising considering all their differences. Some of the happiest seeming people hide their darkest feelings behind perpetual joy. Additionally, a person in this cult to realize something is wrong and reach out for help requires critical thought. Yeah, and so one of the things that people don't that is one thing, is people in cults don't know they're in cults. So people don't know you're in a cult. And then people were like in the comments being like, Katie, stop calling it a cult. I'm not the one who labeled it a cult. Like, you can find all this stuff about this cult on the Cult Education Institute. There's been documentaries about it called The Cult Next Door. Like, the IBLP has been labeled a cult for decades. It's not me that came up with this idea that the IBLP is a cult. And then if you talk to anyone that leaves the IBLP, they will literally tell you it's a cult because of the extensive mind control that is part of it. And they will tell you that when you're in it and you're not thinking critically, you're happy because it's the only thing you know. We should send someone to the camp to see what really goes on, one to the guys and one to the performer. I wouldn't want to go through those. I was told that the Alert Academy was worse than military boot camp. That's what I was, because this person also was in the Marines, and they said that the Alert Academy was worse than boot camp for the Marines. They also said that They did not get fed very well. He was very, very injured and had a very infected toe, and they didn't treat it very well. He said that the Alert Academy was absolutely brutal. There was this facility that the IBLP had in Indiana that was like an in-resident center, and they would literally just like, that was for kids that really needed help. And that was like a troubled teen place. And he said that like kids would get thrown into rooms that were like totally padded off, black, nothing in there, with a mattress on the floor, no clothes, and they would like stick them in there for weeks. That center in Indianapolis or Indiana is apparently now closed, but there was a lot of really bad things that happened in Indiana. So, yes, a lot of people in the IBLP, what the person told me was they either join the military or the girls get married. So the only way a girl can get out from under their house, the care of their father, because while they live with their father, they're under complete authority of their father. So the girl can't leave the house until they actually move out and get married. And for boys, a lot of the boys will move or go into the military to get out of the cult. Sorry, I have a ladybug flying in my room right now. So I think at the end of the day, like, those camps are awful. Yes. Seems like some of them are doing their own thing, like John, David, and Abby, Josiah, and Laura all don't seem involved in all the rules. Well, they're all still involved in it. I don't know to what extent, though, because Abby's whole family is in the IBLP. And I don't know to what extent they're involved, but yeah, I don't know. But obviously, when we're talking about the IBLP, we're not talking about all Christians. And so again, if you're not in the IBLP, I'm not calling you a cult member. If you're a Christian that practices faith like peacefully and isn't indoctrinating people and withholding food from them and forcing women into submissive roles by blind obedience and fear, I'm not talking about you. I'm not calling you a cult member. I have nothing against peaceful Christians. This is not peaceful religion. My husband has been telling me for years they're nothing but a cult. I didn't want to believe it, but now I can definitely see it. See, once they are finally married, then they finally get control of their own lives. Correct. And a lot of them don't leave. So I asked that person, like, on average, how many kids from a family will leave? And they said literally like only one. So all of these families have huge families, and most of the kids end up staying in the cult because it's too hard for them to leave, because if they leave, they have to leave their whole family. And it's hard to have to learn the whole world, and it's scary, and they don't want to lose their family, their siblings, their friends. They really, if they leave this, they leave everything. They have to like deprogram. Like multiple people I've talked to that leave this go through extensive therapy, like tons of therapy. This person I talk to regularly is going through like weekly therapy multiple times a week to decompress, deconstruct, and to deconvert from all of this, and to learn that the appropriateness of boundaries. There's a good video called The Cult Next Door. That's a documentary. That's about Bill Gothard. That could give you a good backstory on it. I have watched this interview that he did with the girl growing up Quiverful. I watched that several years ago. But again, she was the only sibling that left. So that's, again, not uncommon. So I hope all of this clears things up. There's no ill will between me and Reed. I think he is a sunshine. I think he's rays of beautifulness. I feel like if anyone is going to be there for her and try to help her if she needs help, it's going to be him and his mom. And I think a lot of family members that are on the outside of it looking in don't want to see the bad. They want to see the good. And so I think it's hard if you're him to want to look at the bad. They don't want to look at the bad. They want to see the good. And they want to see the good in their, and they don't want to feel like their loved one is being harmed. So, you know, that's a hard place for that person to be. Like they want the best for their loved one. And I think that's what everyone should want for their loved one. And it's hard to admit. Yes, I did tell him about Josh. And we talked extensively about some of the stuff that was involved with all of that. So, but I don't, again, Katie's not marrying Jim, Bob, and Michelle. She's marrying Jed. So my hope is that they aren't around Josh that much. You want to see the best, and you want to see, like, you want the best for your kids. So, all right, you guys, he was really excited. He was very, very happy. He was very grateful for the interview. He was so excited to see that the comments were so positive. He was just really glad that his voice was heard. And, you know, I asked him, I said, why did you want to do this? And he said, I just wanted to tell my truth. I just wanted to share what I was hearing. And I honestly think a lot of it stemmed from people giving him a lot of grief because of him being gay at a wedding where this family is very homophobic, but his experience was not them being cruel to him. So, and that's why I made that joke in the middle where I said, well, I don't think they'd be mean to you. I think they would invite you back to try to convert you and deconvert you from being gay, because that's probably what they would do. So thank you guys so much. I loved him. I thought he was awesome. That whole video happened really, I just worked out, so I hadn't had time to put my makeup on. So thank you for sticking with me when I looked rough. I'll be trying to do more of these types of interviews. Again, if you are a former IBLPer, if you are from the IFB, if you have a story to share, please send me some messages and I'll do my best. I'm getting a lot of requests about looking into other cults. And as I have time, you guys, I feel like every day there's something new from this one that keeps coming up. And a lot of the people from the IBLP, specifically the survivors, they keep sending me messages and they're like, please don't stop. Please keep talking about this. Please keep talking about this. I still have siblings. Please keep talking about this. So I feel like people, I feel like now I've got this commitment to these people that are out that want more people to know so that they can get their kids, their siblings out. So I don't know. I'm at this very odd spot, but yes, I'll look into other cults in the future. All right. Thank you guys so much. Do me a favor on the way out, give this video a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe. If you want to become a member, you can join the membership. You can always throw a super chat. But as always, thank you guys so much for being here. I really hope out of the cult. They want to get them out of the cult. I hope. Sorry about that. All right, you guys, have a great day. Bye.